They planned the perfect bank heist. What went wrong in the final 90 seconds, USA? Smash that subscribe button, like this video if you can feel the tension already, and leave a comment if you think you know where this is going, because once this door closes, there's no turning back. The first patrol car skidded to a stop outside the bank with its siren still screaming, blue lights washing over the brick facade like a warning flare. Inside, the lobby was frozen in place. A woman crouched behind a marble column, her hands over her ears. A security guard lay face down near the teller line, wrists zip-tied, cheek pressed into the cold tile. And behind the reinforced vault door, 4 men stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at a red light that should never have been on. 90 seconds earlier, everything had been perfect. The bank sat in a quiet Midwestern town where nothing louder than a Friday night football game ever disturbed the air. Built in the early 1980s, it was sturdy, predictable, and, according to the crew's research, complacent. No armed guards overnight. Local police response time averaging 6 to 8 minutes. A vault system that relied more on routine than paranoia. For months, the crew watched from across the street and from parked cars with fogged windows. They learned the rhythm of the place. The elderly man who unlocked the side door every morning at 8:07 a.m. The teller who always took her smoke break at exactly 10:15. The security guard who walked the lobby in slow, lazy loops, stopping to chat just long enough to miss what mattered. The leader, known to investigators only as Evan, kept everything clinical. No bravado. No unnecessary risks. He believed crimes failed because people got emotional, sloppy, or greedy. This was supposed to be different. This was supposed to be clean. They entered the bank just after noon, when the lobby was full enough to mask movement but not crowded enough to slow them down. Jackets zipped. Gloves on. Voices low and controlled. No shouting, no gunfire. Just firm instructions and the quiet terror that spreads faster than any scream. Within seconds, the lobby was theirs. Evan moved like he'd rehearsed the floor plan in his sleep. He knew exactly how many steps from the manager's office to the vault corridor. He knew which camera blinked when it rotated and how long it stayed blind. The vault code was entered. The heavy door groaned open. Inside the vault, stacks of cash waited in neat, obedient rows. And then something changed. A soft click echoed from the ceiling, barely audible, almost imagined. Evan froze. His eyes lifted, scanning corners they had already checked a dozen times during surveillance. One of the crew laughed under his breath, thinking it was nerves. But the red light near the vault door blinked once. Then stayed on. Unknown to them, a secondary silent alarm, installed years earlier after a nearby robbery, had triggered automatically when the vault door opened during business hours. It wasn't on any public blueprint. It wasn't visible during a walkthrough. And it didn't make a sound. At the police station less than a mile away, a dispatcher's screen flashed. No alarm bells. No panic button. Just a quiet signal that demanded immediate response. Back in the vault, the air thickened. Evan checked his watch. 30 seconds burned. 45. The door to the lobby didn't reopen when it should have. The lockdown had begun. Steel shutters slid down over exits. Interior doors sealed with hydraulic finality. The building exhaled and became a trap. When the first siren cut through the walls, one of the crew whispered a single word that shattered the calm. Run. Outside, officers took positions, weapons drawn, unaware of what, or who, was sealed inside. Inside the bank, Evan noticed something else for the first time, a narrow maintenance door behind the vault shelving, hidden in plain sight. It wasn't on the plans. And when he pulled it open, the darkness beyond revealed a detail that would turn a perfect heist into a federal nightmare. The maintenance corridor smelled like old dust and machine oil, a narrow concrete throat running behind the vault like a secret the building never meant to share. Evan stepped inside first, flashlight beam slicing through darkness. What he saw made his stomach tighten, not an escape route, but a dead-end service room lined with electrical panels and a single steel ladder bolted into the wall. The ladder went down. Below them, the bank hummed with new life. The lockdown had fully engaged. Magnetic locks sealed interior doors. The lobby lights dimmed slightly, shifting to emergency power. Outside, more sirens arrived, overlapping into a steady howl that pressed against the walls. Evan checked his watch again. They were now 60 seconds past the moment they should have been gone. Police procedure was already unfolding with ruthless efficiency. A perimeter was established. Streets blocked. A supervisor took command and requested the bank's blueprints from city records. Officers fanned out behind cover, eyes fixed on every entrance, waiting for movement that never came. Inside the bank, panic stopped being a feeling and became a physical force. One of the crew, young, inexperienced, kept pacing, tugging at his gloves, whispering that the plan was dead. Another argued they could still force an exit. Evan shut them both down. He knew what the others didn't: forced exits triggered secondary alarms. That much he'd confirmed. The ladder rattled as he climbed down into the sublevel. The space below was smaller than he expected, barely tall enough to stand. Old pipes ran along the ceiling, vibrating softly as if the building itself were breathing. And then he saw it, a small, metal junction box with a handwritten label faded almost to nothing. Lockdown override. His pulse spiked. Someone, years ago, had built a manual reset point for maintenance emergencies. The problem was the keypad attached to it. 4 digits. No hints. No manual. Back upstairs, officers made first contact. A negotiator's voice echoed through a loudspeaker, calm and rehearsed, asking how many people were inside. There was no answer. Just silence and the low whine of systems doing exactly what they were designed to do. Investigators would later describe this moment as the psychological collapse. Every second inside that building stretched. Time distorted. Rational thinking narrowed to a tunnel. Evan tried combinations. Dates. Patterns. Numbers tied to the building's construction. Nothing. Meanwhile, outside, something else was unfolding. A patrol officer noticed a delivery van parked 2 blocks away, engine still warm. Inside, they found burner phones, a change of clothes, and a map marked with escape routes that didn't exist anymore. The realization hit fast: this wasn't a smash and grab. This was a professional job, and it was going wrong. Federal agents were notified. Inside the bank, one of the crew made a fatal mistake. He fired a shot into the ceiling, more frustration than threat. The crack of the gunshot shattered what little control Evan had left. The negotiator's tone changed instantly. Tactical units moved closer. Evan finally heard the sound he'd been dreading, the deep, mechanical clank of the vault beginning its auto-reseal cycle. Once that door closed, it wouldn't open again for hours. Maybe days. He dropped back into the service room, hands shaking now, fingers flying across the keypad. On the 6th attempt, the system chirped. Green light. For a fraction of a second, hope surged. Then the screen flashed a warning he hadn't anticipated. Override activated. Alert sent. Above him, red lights ignited throughout the bank. Outside, officers saw it too, the signal every tactical team waits for. Confirmation that someone inside had tried to break the system. Evan climbed back up the ladder, breath ragged, and locked eyes with his crew. There was no hiding it anymore. They weren't just trapped. They were out of time. And as the negotiator announced that tactical entry was imminent, Evan realized something even worse: someone on his team had known about the hidden system long before today. And they hadn't told him. The betrayal landed heavier than the sirens. Evan's eyes moved from face to face, searching for something: guilt, fear, defiance. He found it in Marcus, the quiet one who joined late and asked too few questions. Marcus's hands were already raised, palms open, breathing steady in a way that didn't match the chaos around them. "You knew," Evan said, his voice low, controlled by force alone. Marcus swallowed. "I knew there was an override. I didn't know it would alert them." That lie didn't last long. Outside, tactical teams stacked along the bank's reinforced side entrance. Inside, the negotiator's voice softened, urging surrender, promising safety, promising survival. Promises sounded different when the building itself felt like it was closing in. The truth spilled fast after that. Marcus had found the maintenance schematics months earlier while pulling city records for a separate job. He saw the override, saw the risk, and saw leverage. When the plan started to slip, he decided his exit wouldn't be through the front door. It would be through cooperation. He had already cut a deal. Unmarked cars rolled in quietly behind the perimeter. Federal agents stepped out, calm, almost bored. They weren't reacting anymore. They were concluding. Inside the vault corridor, Evan felt the plan die completely. Not explode. Not collapse. Just quietly expire, like oxygen being sucked out of a sealed room. The vault door finished resealing with a final, echoing boom. Cash was now irrelevant. Time was the only currency left, and they had none. The tactical breach came fast. Flashbangs detonated with blinding light and concussive force. Smoke filled the lobby. Commands were shouted, layered, overwhelming. Bodies hit the floor. Zip ties tightened around wrists that had once believed they were in control. Evan went down last. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. As officers hauled him to his feet, he glanced once more at Marcus, already separated, already being escorted with a different posture, less urgency, more procedure. Investigators would later say the entire operation, from alarm trigger to arrest, lasted under 11 minutes. The final 90 seconds decided everything. In the interrogation room, the story unraveled piece by piece. Surveillance footage showed the missed alarm sensor, barely visible behind a decorative panel. Phone records revealed Marcus's quiet communications with an FBI handler, starting 3 days before the heist. The delivery van wasn't just a getaway vehicle, it was evidence bait. Evan listened as agents laid it out, their tone almost instructional. No plan survives fear. No crew survives divided loyalty. And no perfect heist survives a building designed to wait you out. In court, the case became a cautionary tale. Prosecutors emphasized the psychological pressure, the way stress accelerated mistakes. Experts testified that lockdown systems weren't meant to stop criminals, they were meant to slow them until panic did the rest. Marcus testified too. He spoke about self-preservation. About realizing too late that the plan was flawed. About choosing survival over loyalty. The jury listened. Some nodded. Some looked away. Evan never testified. He was sentenced to decades in federal prison. The others received similar fates, their names reduced to case numbers and footnotes in law enforcement training manuals. Marcus walked free after 18 months. 3 months after the trial ended, a detective reviewing unrelated bank blueprints noticed something unsettling. The override system, the one Marcus claimed he discovered, had been modified years earlier. The access code wasn't random. It was Marcus's birthday. By the time authorities reopened the question, Marcus was gone. No forwarding address. No digital trail. Just an empty apartment and a bank account that had quietly grown. They planned the perfect bank heist. What went wrong wasn't the alarm, the lockdown, or the police. It was trusting the wrong person when the clock started counting down. And if you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming.